contract holder for the Eveleth Gilbert School District, dating back to 1959. When my father started in the school bus contracting business, I started driving for my father in 1970 and took over full ownership of the company on July 1st, 1999. We feel that this was done in retaliation because of an article that was published in an edition of the Ely Timber J newspaper, which was written by the owner, publisher of the paper, in which my brother was interviewed for as he was a building and grounds transportation foreman prior to January 2nd, 2019. Some type errors in here. I did not see the above mentioned article or even know about it until some time later. For that matter, I still have not seen it. I have heard from many people that this was the reason for the cancellation. In fact, I heard it again today when I was doing some other business at Menards. I would think that if the original contract needed approval from the board, it also should have been necessary for them to take action to cancel it. With this being the United States of America, the right to free speech is guaranteed by the Constitution. Also, I stated before, I didn't know about the above-mentioned article, and I have no way to control what others may say or do. Sincerely, Gary Scariance of S&S Transportation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other visitors who'd like to speak? All right. Any comments on that letter, or?
7.0.
What's that?
7.0.
Okay. Okay. 7.0, approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve it with the addition of 12.7 for the proposal for some maintenance work.
Support.
So we got a motion by Director Shazer, support by Director Gentilini. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 8.0, approve the treasurer's report for the month of September and the first check writing of October.
Members of the board, you have the treasurer's report in front of you that shows receipts for the month of September of $1,083,254.96. Total disbursements, $234,421.37. Payroll, $605,446.77. Balances at the end of the month, Miners Bank, $4,084,254.72. First National Bank of Gilbert, $2,061,792.03 for a total of $6,146,046.75. You also have itemization of disbursements for the first check writing of October, or for the month of October, first check writing in October, totaling $131,226.19.
Can I get a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
I'll move.
I'll second. Motion by Director Sather, second by Director Addy. Any discussion?
I'd like to make a comment. A little while ago, I had suggested that these check writing reports match like what the Virginia School District does, a little bit more information, yeah. And I had a conversation with Brian and Spencer today, and I understand that the new joint powers check writing reports are in the same format as the Virginia one too. And not only because it gives more information, I think there's another column, it kind of tells what these checks were written for, not just who they're written to. And so then all three of those statements will align. I'm going to ask again, that they be, and they said, no problem.
Spencer said it was what he talked to me.
Yeah, okay, well, I just, okay, thanks.
So you would like to see the joint powers?
The joint powers one is
Silver.
already in already in that fund.
So Eveleth Gilbert format matching Virginia's format and the joint powers format.
Right, we just got the
Okay.
first joint powers format of that check writing this week.
Okay, any more?
And I'd like to say that was at my request. Noel Schmidt sent us all an email with that document. And he said that a board member requested it, and he was sending it to all board members because he thought that was the right thing to do. But that was how my request stated, that I was asking for it, that I was wanting it to be sent to all board members of both districts. So I wanted that to be clear.
Okay, any more discussion on the treasury report? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 9.0, consent agenda. Approve the consent agenda as presented.
I would ask that we remove items B and C from the consent agenda for further discussion.
And I also have changes or corrections to the minutes of the September 23rd meeting, number 8 or letter 8. And I passed around the changes. I tried to contact Deb today, but I understand she's out for a while. So I just brought copies of my own. It basically is that the motion, Matt's motion the two-part motion to increase the capacity to 650 and to use the pledge of $3 million from our general fund. There were 2 amendments made, and the minutes only reflected one of my amendments. So I just kind of rewrote them on this piece of paper to be corrected. So I'll move those corrections. I'll move those corrections, and I'll move to remove B and C and put them under 10.0 items removed from consent agenda.
So, moved by Director Lotiger to correct, Director, excuse me, a long day. Director Sorkin to correct the minutes of the Monday meeting of September 23, 2019, and to support Director Schoberg's request to remove B and C
And place them under 10.0
and place them under 10.0
for further discussion.
for further discussion. Okay,
Second?
I'll second that.
And, I'm sorry, discussion? And just, and
Right.
it's to change, amend the minutes to reflect this,
Correct.
which
Correct.
I think
Okay.
more accurately reflects
Yeah.
what happened, so I
Okay.
agree.
One of the amendments weren't in the,
Yes.
okay.
So that being said, is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll be abstaining from this one.
Okay.
I just wasn't there for that, and I know there's a lot of detail in here.
Okay, so 10.0 items removed from the consent agenda for further discussion was B and C. Director Schoberg?
Or do we also have to vote separately on the amended minutes?
No, because your motion included the minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
And the reason I put, or that I ask is, just some general discussion on, I don't really understand what our board's role in extracurricular assignments are in general, and in this specific case, and I certainly, knowing the folks involved, I mean, I'm completely okay with everything, but to get a letter of resignation that's not dated, it's not signed, it doesn't say I didn't do this job this year that I was hired to do, explicitly, it implies that. But to accept a resignation kind of after the fact, I guess that's the only real question that I have with this is, how do we know that he wrote this? When did he write it? I think there's a pretty important
And
things.
that's the question I had when I read it. I'm like, well, this is kind of like, and it's like not addressed, it's not addressed to the Eveleth Gilbert School Board, you know, like, it's just a letter that,
Can I ask to read that, because that didn't, it's not on the board book. The board book has the extracurricular position change, the C is identified as consent agenda B, just so it's.
That was
reflected on
included
here.
in the,
right, there.
It might have been on
mail
the packet, I know, this isn't the same.
right.
You're correct about all of it, it was not done properly. The resignation that's in front of you came in the form of an email to our athletic director last Tuesday.
I'm sorry, I was taking notes.
I'm sorry. That's when I got it last Tuesday from our athletic director.
And even if it would be a email
Yeah.
from him, I
That's
feel
more
better
fair.
about it
Yeah.
than someone sitting at their computer typing 5 lines and.
I mean, so this was just a copy of his email?
No. Without the,
Without the email part?
without the.
Right, I mean, I think that, I mean,
He didn't address it to anybody?
Jojo.
Oh, to the athletic.
I mean, I think, yeah, that letter would have been, a copy of that was the, with his email address, you know, redacted out of that would have been plenty for me with a date and when it was
That's kind
sent.
of why I took it with her, because I didn't know that he really wanted his email address public.
No. I'm just saying, to see something like this is kind of, I mean, because I had the same question when I read this, I'm like, this is kind of weird, there's no date, there's no letterhead, it's not addressed to anybody.
It's not signed.
It's not signed, it's not, it just tells you I'm resigning because of work. You know, but I get it, I guess, but,
And again, you know, also the timing, and that goes to our, you know, the overall role. I mean, I remember either the first or second meeting that I was at, we approved a paid coaching position for the year for a season that was well over halfway done at the time.
And that would definitely be the case here.
The JV football season is officially over. And I don't, and again, I don't wanna, I guess I would even go so far to, or I would make a motion that we approve the resignation and we approve, the reassignment. However, I'd make that contingent upon getting an appropriate
resignation.
letter of resignation that says, I haven't done the job I was hired to do from back in August, because this happened back in August. And I don't know what happened from there.
So this letter, to your knowledge, was sent in August?
No, the change happened in August.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
it's
just
not
never-
like,
It was informally changed and it never was formally coming through these channels for the movement of the position actually where one is paid.
Okay.
I have the August 12th minutes in front of me here. I see Jake here as JV football, but I don't see Ryan on this list at all. Did that come after?
Here's a
He was a
volunteer.
volunteer after.
I know, but we have volunteer footballs here.
I believe it,
Mark, Nick, Chris, Derek, well, but that's gonna be
It
different.
was the next meeting.
The next meeting.
or the meeting after that even. It was approved at a subsequent meeting. And I do believe that Mr. Mulch did the work and deserves to be paid.
Mhm.
The people involved are aware that this was not going.
Okay.
Well, that being said, it just, yeah.
So I guess I
We
would
can move on.
make the motion to approve the resignation and approve the extracurricular coaching change. But I would like to see an appropriate signed letter of resignation indicating that the change was made at, when it was made at the start of the season, for the file before we go ahead and process the payroll.
To make sure that happens.
Support.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table on 10.0 B and first B, approve the resignation of Jake Vallos as our junior varsity coach. And in C would be to approve Ryan Mallage to be paid JV coach for $33,440, and would like to see a official letter of resignation from Jake Faust, I guess on B. So we'll just kind of put B and C together.
Yes, yeah, so that would that we,
Okay.
at the next meeting or the next agenda, or when we get it, we're copied on that letter.
Okay, so we got a motion by Director Schoberg and a second by Director Sather. Any more discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 11.0 personnel. 11.1 approve ECFE teaching position for Matrika Stryer.
Mr. Chair, the ECFE program is Early Childhood Family Education. It's, she's gonna do the Monday night class. We couldn't find anyone for the Monday night class. It's 3 hours. She already teaches kindergarten for us. Has done early childhood in the past, so it's a good deal for us.
Okay. All in favor of approving 11.1? Can I get a motion to approve 11.1?
I'll move.
Moved by Director Sather, support by Director Gentlini. Any more discussion?
So you said this is after regular school hours.
Yes.
Does that have any effect on overloads as far as contracts go versus just an extra after-school job?
Yeah, it's an extra, I mean, it's not in the same classes as the regular teaching contract. I mean, it's in the teaching contract, it's in a separate section, so it's hourly. So it does not affect the salary position.
Okay, any more discussion on 11.1? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 12.2, or 12.0, new business. 12.1, resolution to reinstate director, or reinstate board member. Would you?
Mr. Chair, I did contact the NSBA, as I'm sure you did as well. As well as Margaret Skelton, because she's the one that originally helped us through the process, and they both agreed that this resolution would satisfy the law to get him reinstated now that he's stated that he wishes to come back.
Okay, so what's the 12.1 is just, it's basically a resolution to reinstate the board director, but this also will let us know that Director Malner will give us an exact date of his return.
Sure it is.
Okay, I would like to see that.
He is not to this.
I know, but I want to see an exact date of his return so that we can approve this. Once you get that information, we can approve this resolution 2 weeks prior to our next board meeting, so we can officially relieve John Yuhan of his appointed duties.
What's the 2 weeks of ones?
Well, no, we can, I guess we could have a special meeting to approve this.
Well, I'm
You're saying-
I'm confused, and
I have a question too.
And with all due respect to Mr. Mullner, and who I understand from what I've seen, he does plan on returning, and he will be able to return to our board sometime in the next, the time frame that I've seen is 3 to 9 months. And this says that he has, and it's, Mr. Director Mullner's seat, he duly won an election, so when he can serve, he tells us he's ready to come back. But until he does that, this says Derek Mullner has returned from active duty and has expressed his desire to be reinstated to the board. Where is that? I haven't seen that.
Here's my understanding, from the letters we got from Derek separately, he's having surgery, he's convalescing. He said 3 to 6 months to convalesce from his surgery.
Yeah.
And he said, the military said he cannot serve while he's convalescing. So as soon as he's not convalescing anymore, he's eligible to be back on the board, from what I understand. Is that what you understand?
Yes.
Okay, so I didn't even know why we had this resolution in our
Yes.
packet, because no dates can get filled in yet.
Yeah.
Right, but it was something, it was basically for review. That this is to properly relieve Director Yuhan of his duties, we'd have to have a date, when he was gonna return.
We don't know when he's done convalescing.
I know, but this is what you'd be,
This is what
This is the-
we eventually will
this is the
be.
due
well,
process you
I
gotta
understand.
follow.
I understand, but maybe at the time it would have been.
I mean,
more
I just
appropriate.
like I had said, I
You
just
wanna just
don't,
table this one then, and
Yeah.
when he
Yeah.
gives us a date, we'll do it again?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just- or
'cause I
take-
just-
Just take no action.
right, I just wanted to make sure that if Director Yuhan is at our meeting, because he is the appointed board member, that if Director Mulliner does show up, you can tap him on the shoulder and say, hey pal,
I,
I mean, not that that would happen, I just want to follow a professional process of how to relieve Mr. Yuhan of his duties as appointed board member.
Good.
and I-
Okay?
I think this
I think
resolution serves that purpose, when
Right.
I have
At
the
the right time.
information.
Right.
to-
Okay.
I read that email also, and I understand that Derek Mullins is also requesting from the Secretary of Army to participate in the meetings. Well, he is in conference.
We
I
have,
think it's
we
stated.
haven't
in there.
received word back that he can or
So,
can't yet.
so I mean,
Yeah,
I'd just like to make that point.
I think he's requested it, but he hasn't got approval yet.
And if he doesn't, I think it's more than just 10 meetings. If he gets approval from the Army, then he can serve on the board
Correct.
And that.
prior to being off of active duty.
Yes.
And that being said, going back again to he can't serve until he's not convalescing anymore, that sentence says he's inquiring to see if there's an exception to that rule.
Yes.
Okay,
From the retired general or whatever.
from whatever.
Yeah.
Or
So-
Secretary of Defense.
Yep.
And
Right.
so that, he might still get an exception.
Okay, so
Wait
this
till
is,
here.
what's that?
We'll wait to hear.
That is correct. So 12.1, we'll just table
Just
12.1.
take no action.
Just table, okay, we'll take no action on 12.1, just, this is what you'll be approving when he does give us a date to return, the exact date of return. Okay, 12. I need a motion to table that, correct, Jeff?
No, you can just.
You can just take no action if you want.
Okay, all right, we'll just take no action, okay. 12.2, approve the Minnesota State High School League Co-op for boys swimming with the Virginia Public Schools.
Mr. Chair, this is a co-op for this winter already. We'll start this winter season. We currently only have 6 boys on the swim team, so this will help them out immensely.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve 12.2.
So moved.
Moved by Director Gilbert.
Second.
I'll second by Director Sather. Any discussion?
So, again, about the coaches, do we have 2 head coaches, or will there be 1 Virginia head coach, or what? How is it?
It is my understanding, and Angie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that both of them, it's gonna be open to apply. It'll still be Virginia's program, because we're co-oping with them, so it'll run through there. But we're not doing the co-head coach thing.
When does swimming start, excuse me? Boys swimming start?
Late
Second week in
November.
November. Is it second week in November? Third week in November.
Okay, so now we're gonna have to have a process, are you just going to open it up to those 2 former head coaches to pick 1 coach? And who decided this? Maybe we should decide it or discuss it as a board, what we think should happen.
Actually,
Joint powers.
the last Monday, the Joint Powers accepted an amendment to the original co-op program that said that if the 2 head coaches in this instance don't want to work with each other, that we would open it back up
It's
for,
open.
and it would be an open position.
Do we know that
And
they
that's
don't
what we
want to
do.
work with each other?
We do.
Do we have a formal thing to that, or just like an email to the athletic director or not?
That's an athletic director thing, so.
Well,
They've met with them, and I think there was a verbal agreement that that just wasn't gonna work out, so.
Well, the reality is, I believe this is what prompted the amendment
Yes.
to what we decided upon. So they weren't anticipating having this, but as one of the first sports being looked at, they encountered having this situation. So I do believe it's been clearly identified to both athletic directors, and that was the resolution that they reached with them. I did ask in the joint powers on who determines that there's no agreement, and they did state that that would be back with the coaches. that they would be having that conversation with the coaches. So I didn't want it to just be where the coaches appear to not be getting along, but they're in the process of working through it, and then have someone else make a decision that this obviously isn't gonna work. But yes, that the coaches would be part of that decision that this isn't gonna work, and they would go to the Plan C option, which is opening it up.
So again, we're taking a step before a step. So then what would be the process of opening it up just to the both of those coaches, and how would that procedure happen? And who would be deciding which coach would be the head coach? And would the other one just not be a coach at all? Would they be an assistant coach, or would they be out of the picture totally?
Yep.
And those are important questions.
They would likely be out of the picture entirely. I haven't been involved in it, so I don't know if you know.
I don't know who will be on the interviewing committee. I'm assuming JoJo and Josh, both ADs will, and they'll both have a head coach from each district, is usually typical from another season, to be on the interviewing committee.
Would this be a time to open it up to anybody who would?
I believe it'll be open up to
I
anybody.
bel- Yeah,
To the public?
my understanding was it would be open to
And I
everybody.
think, why not?
Mhm.
I just make a suggestion that when we have these, Jeff, that we get the athletic director here from our district to
That'd be a good idea. to discuss.
clarify how this is gonna transpire,
Sure.
okay?
I mean, we can suggest
I mean, because
anything that we.
it's gonna go from us to Jeff to Angie, from JoJo to Josh, and then
So
it's
can
gonna
I-
go back up, there might be some information lost there that I think it'd be just proper if we had JoJo here to clarify any questions that we would have.
Can I read the amended piece that was agreed upon by the joint powers?
Yeah.
A new head coach will be hired when A, we become one consolidated team in the new school, or B, if any of the head coaches are in a disagreement of co-coaching during the co-op process, each head coach's yearly contract will not be renewed, and we will post for and hire a new head coach for the newly formed co-op team. This new coach will then continue to be the head coach after we consolidate.
After we consolidate, but what about now? Oh, I see what you're saying. Now
Yeah.
and then it would be.
Yeah. They wouldn't have to reapply for their position after consolidation.
And it does sound like it, thank you for having that, Kelly.
Yeah, very good.
It does sound like it would be
Open.
an open posting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, any more discussion on 12.2?
Both districts, I think, have an athletic committee, and you're on it, and so
Yes.
there's possibly representatives. Are you the only board member on that one?
Bill and I are, but it hasn't been functioning as a real athletic committee.
As far as these interviews, I mean, I was wondering about participation by one or both of you, and maybe the Virginia representatives. Why not? I don't know.
I know Virginia, I believe, has a
Board member?
extracurricular, I forget what they call it.
Well, Minnesota State High School
Yeah,
League
high
rep.
school league rep.
Well, just throwing it out there.
Any more discussion on 12.2? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. 12.3, Minnesota State High School League for Nordic Skiing with Wasabi Schools.
This one's a little easier, Mr. Chair. We currently have this co-op in place. The only difference is Mount Airy Buell wants to join the co-op, and being that they want to join, it affects all of the schools that are currently in the co-op, so we have to approve that as well.
Alrighty, can I get a motion to approve 12.3?
Oh,
Moved by Director Sorkin, approved by, second by Director Gentilini. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Director Sorkin, you're gonna be each and every one of us today.
mess and mess, maybe the
Yeah.
messes are funny enough.
Okay, so 12.4, approved contract with Brown Transportation. Approved rates with Brown Transportation.
Mr. Chair, we are in the last year of our contract with Brown, and Linda has requested to the board that Our van rates go from $1.87 a mile to $1.91 a mile, and our bus rate goes from $3.37 to $3.39
And what is that based on?
per cost of driving the bus, I would imagine, for the van.
Is that just a unilateral request from Brown Transportation? Because I also talked to Brian today, and I asked for copies of the contracts, and I thought they would be in our board pack.
Well, you're not approving a contract,
I
you're
know,
approving an amendment. to
I
it.
understand that, but my first question was, what was that based on? And you said it was, we have language in that contract, how the escalation clause should or should not go up.
That's for fuel, yeah.
Oh, well, so this is not a fuel thing?
Well, there's more cost, I'm sure there's more overhead cost to her than just fuel.
Well, there's nothing like that in the contract, so this would be above and beyond the contract we have with her, with them from 2017 to 2020. So you are asking actually for an amendment to the contract.
Yes.
I don't see in there, I think this is very confusing, it's
What's
kinda highly.
confusing, what's confusing
Well,
about it?
it's,
She wants to change her rates from what they were to, you don't have to say yes, but you can. I mean, the board has, every year since I've been here, she puts in her request for what she would like the rates to go to, and you either say yea or nay.
again, you've got an increase, and it's based on cents per mile.
For fuel,
And it's
yeah.
based on fuel. Now, this would be based on fuel and plus this other 2 cents and 5 cents, or whatever it is.
That's
For
the-
what? For,
That's the base rate of what we
Right.
pay her for that service.
and it's not.
That doesn't change throughout the year. The fuel cost, depending on where, fuel clause, depending on how much fuel cost does change throughout the year.
I understand it. I just don't see, where is this coming from? And all of a sudden, somebody wants something out of the contract, above and beyond the contract. I mean, that would be renegotiating the contract, or amending the contract or something. I mean, it's very odd to me. Plus, in lieu of a visitor input today about Screons having a contract, they also have a contract with us for the same period of time. And this is tied in with, if we approve this, this is part of the reassignment of a bus run that you suggested earlier, but it didn't have board approval, for Brown Transportation eliminating the S&S contract. And we already have, we have a contract for 1 more year with them. We have an assignment clause in here. We do not have any clause in here about eliminating a contract, a bus run and breaking a contract. So we got a lot of things here that don't seem right to me, and I think we should not move on this at all until these things get worked out. And above and beyond that, on top of it, I think this is an inappropriate increase, not based on, it didn't even say why. Why?
It's the base rate for what they charge us for their service.
I don't see those numbers in here.
I agree with Polly that, I mean, the contract's a contract, you negotiate that at the onset of the contract, and particularly, I mean, something like this, you have some sort of implicit fuel surcharge or whatever, and that's already built in, so that is very much a variable cost of doing business that you can't control. And I guess I would ask the same question, why
What that's
why
based
didn't we
on.
negotiate that at the outset of the contract, that there's a 2% in one case, in the other case, it's 1/3% or whatever increase.
So I make a motion to postpone this, not to table it, because tabling just means you're gonna deal with it at the end of the agenda, but to postpone it, have some kind of a meeting on it. We have to maybe throw on the agenda, have a special meeting about this whole situation, which I think we've broken a contract, it's my opinion, reading this, with Screonces by eliminating his run and giving it to, giving his run to Brown Transportation. So that's my opinion, my impression.
And I have-
Legal ramifications on breaking this
Where am I, I
contract.
don't know.
It was followed to the T.
Well, we need that discussion, it's not the right time to discuss it here, because I have copies of this, and you, I think all board members need that, and we need to discuss it. And that's the
Was
situation.
that was a motion?
The motion
To postpone it until further
Discussion.
meetings about the situation, about the increase that was asked for, and about the SNS and Brown Transportation situation, the elimination of their bus.
I would second that.
Okay, so we got a motion by Director Sorkin and a second by Director Schoberg to postpone this for further discussion. Any discussion on that?
Yeah, go ahead, and I
Any
think
more discussion?
one more thing, and I think it's in the letter, I lost it. Didn't they say though that if a board approves a contract, shouldn't the board have to also vote to change a contract or,
It was in the letter,
Maybe,
yeah.
maybe there is.
Well, and that's, I mean, so I would just ask that we get a study session scheduled sooner rather than later, and to review that, and it depends on how contracts are written up on who's able to make the change on them. So if it says otherwise in the contract, I don't know. But, and then could we, for Brown Transportation, for this request, could we get some clarification on just the purpose of the request of what the increase would be for? Whether it's for employee cost,
Well,
and
it's-
raises, or what, I mean,
No, it's her, she has to figure out how much it costs her to drive that bus a mile, and charges us broker. So
But
it's-
in the
Looks like
contract,
it's been done for a really long time.
but I guess according to this contract that Director Sorkin has, that they do raise it automatically every year. And now she's asking for more above and beyond what her contracts have stated, correct? Is that what this 12.4 is stating?
And here it is, section 3A, for the years. 185 a mile in 2017-18, 186 a mile in 2018-19, and 187 a mile in 1920.
And on that, do we know what this is gonna, if this was to be approved, do we know what this would have cost the district?
That's somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,500.
so,
Whatever it is.
I mean, so that's, that I get in the contract, I mean, those are the idea, I mean, when you're projecting what your 3-year cost is gonna be, we don't know what's gonna happen with anything as far as next year, all of a sudden, we could be doing $5 a gallon. We don't know what that cost is gonna be, and I would assume that she's using some type of formula. I'm just wondering what with it, with this specific formula was, where she anticipated that these costs were just different. So
I will,
some clarifying
Linda would be
because,
more than happy to come see you.
okay, because it just sounds like there's gonna be some questions about that. So
Yeah, but
I
there's-
don't think it's out of line for this request, and I'm in support of it. I think that it costs our businesses money to operate, and trying to project 3 years, I mean, it's a best guess formula that I'm assuming that they're using to decide that, but I mean, the request isn't outstanding or very different, and I would anticipate that would be the norm for a lot of different companies, so.
Okay, so we got a motion on, any more discussion on 12.4? So we got a motion on the table.
One more thing, I had asked for a contract with Shubat, and Ryan couldn't find a contract. Do we have a contract with Shubat? I just had some stuff from one of our last board meetings where you increased some rates per mile.
There's gotta be one in here somewhere, I've seen it.
So I suggest that when we have that meeting, we get that contract. Thanks.
Okay. Any more discussion on 12.4? All in favor of postponing 12.4 until further discussion, for further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries.
And, excuse me, you can postpone definitely to a certain point in time or a certain date, or you can postpone indefinitely, meaning you don't know when. So I just like to see if we postpone indefinitely, okay? Because we don't know when we're going to meet. Record to reflect that.
Okay. Get that answer.
Thanks.
To postpone 12.4 indefinitely. until maybe the next special meeting where we can bring it up. Okay, moving along, 12.5, approve job description for PLC coordinator.
Mr. Chair, one of the things that got added into the Minnesota contract in Schedule C was a PLC coordinator. This would be somebody that, in general, carries out the PLCs that we do on Wednesday early out. You want to add anything to that? You guys wrote it, so.
Well, we're just looking for, some people to help out in each of our buildings, lead the professional learning communities that we have each Wednesday, and to be able to compensate them a little bit for their work and efforts.
So just to get clarification, then this is not looking at a full-time position.
No, it's like
It's a stipend.
$1,200 a year.
So
Schedule
just,
C of this contract has, just like the coaches,
okay,
certain stipends,
thank you.
certain points. I have a question, how is this position coordinate, tie in, or have a relationship to staff development committee, which is different, and a curriculum advisory committee? How would that,
Well, I think it ties into the staff development for sure, because that's the biggest thing with these PLCs is doing that staff involvement
right?
and on best teaching practices. And so definitely a tie into the staff development. And then your other question was
Well, the curriculum advisory committee, but take, for instance, the staff development committee, this person wouldn't necessarily take the lead of the staff development committee because there's a hierarchy and there are bylaws and everything for that. So I don't know how this is going to fit in with responsibilities and roles and, you know.
This person would be an active member on a committee.
Okay, well, to make decisions of even what things, the early outs you're going to do should be through the staff development committee based on the curriculum advisory committee. So I know we've been doing things for the last couple of years on when the early outs on Wednesdays, but it hasn't followed any kind of meetings or decisions or outlines of any staff development committee, organized formal committee, so.
We actually met, was it
last week.
Tuesday, and started talking about having a combined academic advisory committee and staff development committee with Virginia. And we're kind of in the early stages of making that happen, I guess, so that we're on the same page.
Okay, well, that was a different discussion. In fact, that was one of my board member topics today. A few meetings ago, we had it on the agenda about those committees, and we just kind of said, well, I'll take care of it, because what are we going to do? And I asked, are you going to be starting to combine or not? And we're still separate districts, so the discussion and your direction at that time was that, no, we would still be separate and then move into that phase.
Yeah, and I think with the World's Best Workforce, what we'll end up doing is that we're going to be reviewing our own goals at each district level. But as we plan for this next year, what our goals will be, we'll try to sync them a little bit so that our goals are the same for those 5 areas of the World's Best Workforce, and that will guide our staff development and advisory committee.
Right, but we still operate separately for this year.
Yes.
Yes, okay, so that
Yep.
was. And so have you started to coordinate those committees? And you said you're going to get some help from somebody to, what did you say?
Those
Get some help to
consultants
form the,
from the Alexandria. Mhm.
well, not necessarily Alexandria, somebody from MSBA or the State Department
Oh.
to help put those.
Yeah,
It was for the boards. The boards come up with the
You have to
goals.
come up with a goal.
And it trickles down, so we as a board have to come up with our district goals.
I did contact MSB. We've been working with Jeff. I don't remember Jeff's last name, Olson, on those kinds of things, and he's now a superintendent in St. Peter. So they shifted those duties to someone else. And I hadn't heard back from her, but I did have another meeting with Ann Womack, who we've also worked with, about that, and she was gonna get back to me and has not, so.
It'd be nice to have that scheduled sooner rather
I
than
know.
later, just to pick a evening and get that going.
I'll pester people tomorrow.
And that is different than the strategic plan that that district set. And we need to work on that.
That too. Yeah.
Okay, so any more discussion on 12.5? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I don't know if we had a motion.
Motion by,
Someone did.
yes,
Wasn't.
I didn't get it.
No,
I don't think we had.
I don't-
it was-
I'll make,
Well,
I
I
will
probably
make,
started the discussion and then just continued.
yeah, I'll make
Yeah.
a motion to approve the job description for the PLC coordinator.
I'll second. Motion by Director Shazer, seconded by Director Addy. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Motion carries. 12.6, set closed session for negotiation strategies with AFSCME. I'll move to set negotiation strategies with AFSCME.
Support.
Support by Director Shazer. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 12.7. That's the proposal, Jeff?
Yeah. I had a couple things for the board to consider tonight, and some intro info on some other stuff that we don't have yet much. The first side says JK Mechanical Contractors, and we can certainly go out for different pricing. JK is someone that we have worked with often, so we asked them to give us some pricing on some issues that we have. The first one is there's a heat exchanger control valve underneath the pool that is failing. They're struggling to maintain the temperature on the pool. Some days it's really hot and some days it's cold. And we had long discussions of can we limp through the year? And the answer is no. You probably shouldn't. We do have little kids in there often. So you can see that one's $6,272 to replace that. The next two are related to every year we have to have our boilers inspected. Our insurance company sends a boiler inspector in. And we have a new inspector this year for our insurance company, and he is recommending that we replace the bottom blowdown valve on the Eveleth campus for $2,985. And then the Gilbert School one wasn't really an option. We're supposed to, per code, we're supposed to have our relief valves within 18 inches of the floor of the current part, $4,125. If you flip over to the other page, there's a heading called Jamar, and Jamar is somebody that we've been working with roof patching, so again, we just asked for some pricing, just to kind of get an idea of where we're at. We can certainly ask others, but what's going on is there's a above the boiler at the Gilbert campus, there's a separate roof that is sitting above that. It's flat, obviously, and ballasted. It's old. Best way to put it is there's the walls on the roof they're up about 2 feet above the roof, and the rubber molding comes up and folds up on it, and this seam right here is weather checked and it's leaking bad. I mean, that part of it absolutely needs to be replaced. That's the 8500. The 19.8 that you see below it is replacing the entire roof. The other one that I wish I had a price for, but I haven't got one yet, and that would come from JK as well, is the condensate pipe going from the junior high building to what's now the science wing. And it looks like Swiss cheese. We're not getting a whole lot of condensate back to the boiler.
It goes from the junior high like that.
It goes under, it goes through that tunnel in between
I thought
the,
they replaced that.
no, that was the
Gas line.
gas line.
Yeah.
It is functioning right now, but once it gets cold out, it's not gonna be pretty. So anyway, if you wanna tell me that these are okay and you're gonna approve it, I'll move forward. If you want me to go find some other companies to give pricing on it, we can do that too.
You know me, I'm a big supporter in competition and for everybody to have equal opportunity in our jobs. So that's
I'd like
what I
to see other
suggest.
bids
I'd like,
too.
yeah, me
I
too.
could put it out for proposals,
That's-
bids or quotes or proposals, whatever the legal dollar amount is.
I mean, I just look at some of the stuff on the, you know, from like replace existing pool, heat exchanger, just a valve, I mean, you know, $6,200, and then you replace boiler blowdown valve with a flange wall valve, you know, $3,000. Put 2 pieces of pipe, or four relief, pipe 4 relief valves. That means not replacing the relief valves, but with piping them within 18 inches of floor per code. It's $4,000. Is there a deadline for repair on this, Jeff?
No,
The state? Okay.
it just, before he gets back here, I need that repaired.
Okay. All right, so I would say I'd like to see this to go out on bid,
Okay.
you know.
How time sensitive is it, are the respective jobs?
Well, the 2 bottom ones are insurance issues, and like I said, I mean,
When were you informed of these repairs need to be done?
about 2 weeks ago,
Okay.
these ones. We've known about the roof for a while, we just got pricing on it last week. The 2 bottom ones are insurance issues, it's not gonna affect us heating any buildings if we don't do it right now. The pool is kind of an issue. We're struggling to keep it at a constant temperature. The roof part, to be honest with you, we actually do we call up to a lot of companies and struggle to find anybody that'll come to do this work. Jamar has been the only one that has responded. They are recommending that they can patch it for $8,500, and I would, before it starts snowing, I would recommend the board actually goes forward with that one. But the other ones we can put out for pricing, as well as the condensate pipe. Needs to be replaced in Gilbert.
I'll move going off for all of them. Posting, advertising, going off for bids or quotes for all of them.
What's the time frame on them that you would wait for bids? Because I also understand that some may only be the one bid that we're receiving, and I would hate to delay stuff because we're,
You can put it out there for a day, or you can put it out there for 2 years. if
what's
you
the,
want.
I know, but what's the norm?
2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay.
So was any other contractors called in?
What's that?
Was any other, I mean,
No, I just
you just called these guys?
wondering how much it was gonna cost us.
An idea, okay.
So I moved and, is there a second?
I'll second to put that out on bid, but with a very strict timeline, Jeff. I mean, you know, we put that out on bid and and so by the next board meeting, hopefully the snow doesn't, we're putting out on bid for the repair of the boiler, or you talking the roof too as well?
I said everything.
Okay, so by our next board meeting, Jeff, can we get some, hopefully we can get some bids back, if not, well, that's the way it works.
Yeah, I agree, I would like it to be time limited and by the next board meeting to be able to make a decision, especially with the roof for the winter, and then the pool, when we know our kids are using it, and that is impacting their day-to-day activities.
So we're gonna take 12.7 and we're just gonna move to just send it out on bid. So there's no, send it out for further bids. We need a motion for that, right? And a
We have
second?
motion.
She has a motion.
Motion by Director Shortman.
You need a second.
I'll
support it.
second it. Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 32.0 Administrative Report and Information.
I apologize, it is faltering again today. Sorry, our enrollment today is 876. You want to add anything about the school tours?
Went down to see a couple of schools on a Thursday and a Friday with we had 10 staff and 10 staff from Virginia. It was nice to go on the school tours and to see everything. Both principals, myself and Lisa Perkovich from Virginia, we had seen Alexandria once already, but it was nice to go back. It seemed more purposeful for us, and that we had an intent of the hot spots that we've had discussions on working with our architects. So it was nice to take the principal from Alexandria and from Sartell and say, okay, show me your locker room, show me your gym space, show me the career tech ed, just so that we could see the space that was available and compare it to where we're heading with our own design. So it was good for us to go a second time and to see. And the other staff members that I went there took their pros and cons from each building and shared it with the architects as well.
All right, we're looking at October 28th at 5 PM over at the Service Co-op to have both full boards meet again. We're gonna talk about consolidation timelines and
5 PM, not 6?
5. It's gonna be long.
Okay. Make a note of that, 5 PM, not 6.
So are we going to, so we aren't going to have a regular Eveleth board meeting?
Well, I was gonna get to that.
Sorry.
I'm thinking that we should schedule that for the next day on Tuesday. We do that?
I'm good.
I'm good with that.
Or could we meet an hour earlier, or?
We could do that too.
So we meet at 4 o'clock on the 28th, and then you'd have to allow yourself enough time to get there.
Right, I mean, hour earlier, hour later, move the joint meeting to 6, however we do it.
I could move it to 6 too.
The joint meeting,
We haven't published it yet, so we could.
We can meet in as individual, because they have a meeting on the 4th Monday also, correct? A regular meeting.
No, they have, that's their studies.
They only have one.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
but then they could have a study session if they
Yeah.
needed their study session, and that would work better for me than,
We can do that.
Could we possibly do 4:30 for our regular meeting? Just to make sure we have time to
Sure.
cover everything and then try to wrap up around 5:30 to head over then for our combined.
So,
these two, but I would just say, let's meet in the other room there, like we did with the first joint powers board meeting. Or can't we, I mean, that might get,
I think we're supposed to be.
that's
with different
fine, yeah,
districts.
that's,
was your thinking about having our board meeting the day after the 2 full boards? Because would our meeting be predicated on anything that would happen at that meeting? Okay, so,
So,
No, we gotta start having discussions about debt and how that's going to be distributed in the consolidation plan. I gotta have a whole list, and I don't have it.
we're
in front of
gonna,
me.
so I know there was the email that you sent about the levy conversation,
And that's
about
debt,
the existing debt, and then
The school,
our
the school board
school board
consolidation plan.
consolidation plan of the membership, because it
That
was
has to
different
be,
for our resolutions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's another thing.
and do we have our resolution now?
In fact, you just signed.
Good.
can I get a copy of it though?
Yeah.
And a copy of
Like
everything
a
is
copy
too.
also.
with a different resolution?
No, it's just signed up.
From August.
Okay, so Jeff, you're proposing October 28th at 6 PM for the both boards to be at the service co-op at 6 PM on the 28th.
Yeah.
And that same day, hour and a half earlier, October 28th, a regular board meeting at 4:30 in this boardroom, correct? Was there any problems with that? With the other board members?
Vacation that week.
You are?
Yeah, a vacation for my regular job, not vacation from school board.
Okay.
You'll be around.
Be around.
I'm good with those dates myself personally.
I just want to tell you about a couple other things that we got in the tank right now. We reached out to the 3 major mining companies and couldn't get them all on the same date, but on the 22nd, we're meeting with Cliffs, and on the 24th, we're meeting with US Steel and our South Sierra Middle. Basically asking them for a couple things. We want some input as to what we should be teaching, what kind of programs we should be teaching in our CTE courses, in their opinion, and start the conversation if they'd be willing to help us out with those programs at all. Or not. It's worth asking.
So these meetings will take place where, Jeff? With Inland Steel on the 22nd, or, I mean, do they, just you and
Yeah,
you and Noel are gonna have this discussion tomorrow, or,
Yeah, it's Steve George is actually
Okay.
hosting it.
okay? And then on the 25th, we're gonna have our eclipse, then.
24th.
These, huh?
No, 22.
20.
plus-
22 and
22nd.
24.
22 and 24, okay. These gonna be public meetings at all, or
No.
just, okay?
I just wanted you to be aware that's happening.
You know,
And then we're
some-
also-
Excuse me, but sometimes I think the board chairs should be involved in some of these too, you know. I know, sorry.
And then we're also trying to,
Like, sometimes, if time permits me, I'd like, sometimes like to just sit in and be a listen, just listen.
we also put a letter out, email, whatever, to area businesses asking if they wanted to, you know, like your Lundgrens and some of those types of businesses that potentially have CT skills, just asking the same question. We don't have a date for that.
Okay.
Who would be the contact for that? Because I do have a person who was interested in seeing what was happening with us and actually contributed one of the large machines over in Alexandria and is pretty involved with their industrial tech, and he lives in this area. So who can I just have him? Okay. Thank you.
Are you going to be approaching any heating and cooling businesses in the area?
I'm sure they are.
Maybe they'll make some big donations.
Yeah, hopefully.
They never get hit up for anything.
No, ask Matt.
Nothing else, maybe we can get a van out of the deal or something.
Well, couple years you can have the one I have, one I own. Got 180 on it.
Let's see, all right, so Jostens did the survey for the name, mascot, and colors. And I know people have been asking for me to show them what the results are, and I don't have them, and I've asked for them too, but on Wednesday at 2:45 over in the media center in this building, they're gonna reveal those results. I don't know how it's gonna go. On Thursday at 9 over at the Gilbert Media Center, and then 5 o'clock on Thursday in the Memorialville.
Before you move on from that, I had some people, one person in particular, ask about, he hasn't heard anything about a new school song. And actually, this person's got one already written to submit, and not knowing if there's competition or if there's if there's going to be anything like that, so I'd like to throw that out into the mix.
Honestly, I haven't thought of that
No,
one.
I didn't think so.
Okay.
And the yearbook name, and I got,
Now you're getting in the weeds.
oh, I
I think I have heard that someone else had a song idea too, but that's neat. I like that.
and I got,
Keep that in the mix when you talk.
as the board chair, I get kind of beat on so once in a while. And some people were talking about the school colors and the school names, and they just told me, for the love of God, don't mash the two colors together, don't mash the two team names together. The two Blue Devils and Golden Bears, just start fresh, and that way everybody is satisfied.
That's what the survey will
Blue,
show.
orange, and maroon.
Oh, I don't know.
It just blends.
I just don't know, and I just said, I don't,
Is 2:30 on Wednesday at the media center here?
2:45.
2:45, yes,
Thank you.
it is here.
Okay.
in,
9 o'clock the next day over in Gilbert, on Thursday, that's this week of course, and then 5 o'clock, that's Monday.
now, you said the cafeteria here, right? You're talking.
Media center.
I said media center, the paper said cafeteria, and I didn't catch that before it got in the paper. I mean, that's just a awful place to have a meeting, so we're going up in the media center.
Okay.
Little pull signs, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Yeah. Redirecting.
All right.
All right, MSBA conference is coming up. Do we want to send people this year? 16th and 17th of January.
I got a lot out of that last year, and I think I would certainly support if any members wanted to go to that. I found it very helpful.
If you are interested, when Deb comes back next week, we'll get you set up.
Alrighty.
Okay.
I fully support that too. I think there's a lot of good information. It's like any other trade organization, and that's, it's the same type of thing. And so I think and you can actually use staff development money for school board members for their education and training too, so.
I made it my first year and I couldn't make it the last couple of years, but I think I'm gonna try to make it this year. Yeah,
We did the first year, we did the second year, didn't go last year,
yeah.
may go again this year.
And on top of that, many school districts, what's it called, a roundtable, whatever, where the students show maybe successful programs happening in their schools and innovations. And I remember a couple special ones, Hugo, there's school districts that have studios and media courses and programs like you couldn't believe. And, but, so I don't know, is there anything in our school district that is showcase, student
I was just
showcase?
gonna say, yeah, I think it would be,
I mean, we have time to submit something if we have that, and even or Virginia, to showcase something from one of our districts.
and I think certainly over the next few years, I'd be very interested in putting up for presenting there. I went to a school board training and just recently, and right when I walked in, they asked how it's going with Eveleth, Gilbert, and Virginia, and were very interested on just the work that's been going into it, and then they had me comment on it with the other districts in the room. So I think that would be a really neat thing to speak to in the coming years.
All right.
All right, I think I'm kind of done because I just have a bunch of pictures of cute kids on fire trucks and I can't get enough for
I
trucks.
think I saw most of those.
Right. So I would like to thank the local fire departments, they're awesome this week. Even though it was kind of cold out, they were spraying water all over the place. They had a fire going up in the rink up there, they were putting out fires. It was pretty awesome.
All right.
You guys have anything to add?
Jeff, wait, one more thing, you put something at the table.
Yep,
What was the
I'll
purpose?
adjust
You-
that.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I had lots of great pictures as well. And lots of great stuff going on, homecoming week last week, and kids were all involved, it was awesome. We had some free t-shirt giveaways. Week prior to that, we had a guest singer from the Democratic Republic of the Congo and his wife, who is from North Dakota. And they came and presented, it was so fun, the kids were so involved. So anyway, thank you.
I had some pictures to go along with our student reps in their presentation, a picture of the Minnesota Honor Society, our 14 new inductees, a picture of some of our students that dressed up like Mr. Strasser, all in black, a picture of our homecoming royalty with King Tassoni and Queen Carly George. Also had just a shout out to Mrs. Larson for taking a group of students to the Memorial Blood Center workshop that they have for high school students. She is the one behind the scenes making sure that we always have a blood drive here at the school, and she's always making sure that she has students trained for that. She goes to that every other year. So thank you to Ms. Larson for doing that. And then the other thing that is on your table, Dana Markusich is here in the audience, and she spoke to the board at a past meeting regarding transportation and mileage reimbursement for her students. So we are planning to have her speak to the safety committee when we have our safety committee meeting. That committee meeting isn't till December, so I'm going to contact the chair of that committee and ask if we could move it up a little bit earlier so she can share her concerns. But she just wanted to make sure that all of you had a copy of what the state statute says for what parents can request for mileage reimbursement. And then she'll talk to us at the safety committee and then bring it back to the board from that safety committee meeting.
But Angie, I don't see the connection, safety committee and what you were requesting. Is that a safety committee?
Well, some of her issues are, is it a safe place for where we would be dropping off our students?
Right.
That was one of the main concerns that I had heard from Dana. So I thought safety committee, we've got Mike Hogue there, transportation director. So I think it would be a good venue for us to address the issue there.
Okay, I agree with that, but there was the other concern about a mileage thing.
Well, a
Mileage
mileage
reimbursement?
she's looking for mileage reimbursement.
Okay, is that something we're going to address in a different venue or not? I mean, if it was brought up.
I mean, mileage reimbursement for what?
If she's transporting her children, then it doesn't become a safety issue because I don't think they're dropped off at the border of the district.
Yeah, that's part of it, just as I
Well,
remember her.
Yeah, well, we had contacted, you had given us approval to contact Mitch Brufeld, the lawyer. So he looked into this and he said that we can provide, we need to transport to the district boundaries, which would be at that country store, county store?
Crossroads.
Yeah.
Crossroads?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so we would have to drop off the kids there, and then that's what or if she brings her kids to that spot, we would reimburse her for that mileage only to that spot, to the district. If we didn't provide transportation. So if we provide transportation to the country crossroads, to that store, that's what legally we have to do. So we're willing to bring the kids there and drop them off. Well, then she would have to bring them the rest of the way to the neighboring district where her kids go to school. She wouldn't get reimbursed for that. So the issue came up, well, a safety issue for dropping off kids at that store. Do we drop off other kids at that store? Do we pick up kids at that store? And we do have a student that we pick up at that store and bring here. And Mike Hoag was telling me also that they drop off kids at different gas stations in Biwabic, Highway 4, and other areas
I
too.
guess that's a little bit different. We have a dead space between, if I remember right, Dana, that there's a dead space between where we drop off your kids and where the neighboring district is.
There's a district between the two.
There's a district between the two which they do not attend, correct? They attend a school in Hibbing?
Correct.
Okay, so, yeah, I mean, it's a safety and liability that we're dropping kids off at a gas station when there's nobody there to pick them up.
But what I heard was, the request was for additional mileage reimbursement.
Yeah, like Part A and Part B, yeah.
And it doesn't make sense to put the kids on a bus at home, drive to the end of the district, pick your kids up off the bus. And
Well, we're just following the state statute.
Oh, I
I'm not
understand
saying
that.
that it makes sense. It doesn't make sense.
right, the
But
state
that's all
statute says
that,
we either have
right.
to transport the kids, or we alternatively can work out a deal.
but just to
to
the
pay
edge of the
mileage.
boundary.
Just to the boundary.
Just to the boundary of our school
Or if
district.
we want, we can pay mileage to Duluth, but I don't know that
No.
we want to do that.
Yes, yeah.
There's a lot of things that I want to discuss about these statutes and the situation. Okay, I want to discuss them with you guys. You know what I mean? And I'm willing to do that at the transportation meeting.
Then I would
But
suggest
that's not their
that,
authority, the
Right.
transportation.
Well, the reason,
Actually.
I mean, you discussing a state statute and having our legal counsel making sure that the statute's interpreted right is
right,
probably the best thing for our district.
well, how do I do that? I mean, I don't think that the attorney makes the decision. Does he make the decision?
Well,
Well,
he's
you-
gonna interpret the statute.
Yeah.
And evidently, he has
Mhm.
told you that you either transport my kids to the boundary or you reimburse me for mileage. I don't think he's said that you reimburse me for mileage. I don't think that he said it's either or. You know, Mr. Carey and this attorney have said that your legal responsibility is just to transport my kids to the border.
That is correct.
Okay, and the reason why the safety issue comes in is because there are statutes, that laws that should be applicable. Safety is one of them. And transporting my kids to the border, dropping them out there, leaving them there, it's not providing for their safety. Their safety is neglected in that aspect.
Yeah,
So
but I
I'm
guess,
willing to transport my kids myself.
But I guess that's the choice you made when you decided to send your kids to a different district. I mean, that's probably one of the black areas that really should have been thought out. I mean, we're gonna do as a district, according to the school attorney and legal counsel, that we will bring them to the border.
Okay, well, I believe that the district is required to provide for their safety in whatever option, and I think it says that in the statute.
I think I see where you're coming from. I think
Okay,
I see.
So,
I do get that, but what do? We're gonna run them out to the board. I'm not trying to start an argument, by no means whatsoever. But I'm just saying, this is kind of bizarre that you're gonna send your kids to a different district. It's not bizarre, I I shouldn't use that word, but you want us to provide transportation out to the district as per the Minnesota Department of Education requirements, but yet there's nobody there to pick them
No,
up.
that's not what
I
you're
don't
saying.
want you to,
No,
I don't
that's
want you to transport them, I wanna transport them myself.
That's what I
Okay,
understand.
from what point to what point? I mean, how far is it
From
from?
home to the school.
I only
Oh.
want reimbursement from, I will transport my kids myself,
I
but
understand.
I
the same thing.
want mileage
So-
rearbursement
okay.
from my house to
Can-
the border.
Yeah,
For the
so-
crossroads, okay.
Yes,
Not really appropriate.
it is appropriate.
for this time of discussion.
Oh, okay.
Is what was
Okay,
meant by
that's
that.
fine, I'm willing,
I think the clarification was made by the attorney of whether or not we're in compliance with statute. Yes, we're in compliance because we're offering this ride. If we weren't offering this ride, we would have to be able to cover mileage reimbursement. I think Angie spoke to it clearly of what the issue is. Does it make sense? I think was, no one's reviewing that of whether it makes sense or not. It's, are we in compliance with the statute? The attorney's review of the statute was saying, yes, we're in compliance because we're able to offer the ride. The question is, does that make sense? Because just how you pointed out, why would someone drive put your child on the bus and then go and pick them up at the drop off to continue the ride further, because we're only gonna be providing that ride or anything at that point.
Oh.
So I think it's a different conversation.
I agree with you right up there. I think the law then says the district has the option, the choice, okay? To transport or to do mileage, to give mileage. Okay, transport to that spot. And we've said, that's our prerogative and that's what we'll do. But she's saying, I think, that yes, you've decided that that's your prerogative, which it is, but that's not safe. Therefore, it's not safe, so therefore, that's not gonna wash.
Evaluate it again.
No, that's not, and then it's not a question of why she did it. Then it's a question of, by default then, she's asking for mileage. Because we're following the law. We're offering
We're in
to
compliance
transport.
with it.
But it's not the issue of, does it make sense? It's because now she's saying it's not safe. That's an issue that's gonna have to be worked out. If you wanna pursue it, I guess that's what, you're gonna have to pursue that part of it. That you say it's not safe, therefore that's not acceptable, and that you want the mileage, and then there's
And that's where-
a complaint.
And that's where she's bringing it forward to the safety committee for further conversation about
I
that
don't
safety
think that, I
concern.
don't think that the district is in compliance if my children's safety is not
Yeah.
guaranteed.
Yeah,
So-
we're crossing the line.
Yeah.
We need to, this
Yeah,
is
we
not-
need to have
Okay,
a more
that's fine.
discussion, but just for
Absolutely.
one last question I have. How many miles is it from your house to where you gotta go?
12 or 13 miles, that's what I'm asking
Okay.
for mileage reimbursement for.
Alright.
That's it.
So I just wanted to speak to it initially being brought up for Ms. Williams stating about the safety. I'm fine moving it sooner if you were.
Well, that
you were
safety
gonna be
committee
talking about
meeting?
the chip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, no more discussion on this, right?
It's fine, absolutely.
Ms. Williams had the floor, though, and she
Right.
has more stuff.
No, that was it. That was the last thing I wanted to make sure that you were aware of why that was sitting in front of you.
Just let me know when that meeting is.
Yep.
I really want to do you guys.
All right.
If the safety committee decides that it's not safe, then where does it go?
Then I think we decide what we want to do,
I mean-
based on their
I
recommendations.
was just gonna say
Recommend.
recommendations would be coming from the safety committee.
Okay. Moving along. 14.0.
You wanna do that? Or you wanna me
Sure.
to?
I grabbed my stuff, I saw that, so just in anticipation for the joint power board report. I don't have the minutes, of course, nicely typed up in front of me, so I'm gonna go through from our conversation pieces and if there's any notes. So we talked about the athletic, the amendment to the athletic plan and spoke about that earlier, so I won't cover that. And what I had read earlier specifically was what was changed in that plan from the initial one. We had we only had one legal counsel member present to answer to the RFP, so we heard from him and Kraus Anderson and Cunningham Group. We heard a lot about the high school tours that Ms. Williams had spoken to, a lot of pieces that they gathered from there and what their ideals for our new school and what the possibilities could be with that. And hopefully, and it was nice, we had a good amount of people from the Cunningham Group and Coach Anderson and everyone sitting back there, so they were kind of taking notes to what our teachers had reported to and what they saw and what they felt when they walked into the different buildings. The Teamworks presentation was nice. I continue to express some concern in our joint powers on what essentially is the joint powers role, what is the Eveleth Gilbert school board role, and what's the Virginia school board role. So they have started to kind of map out and look at showing a plan of what that would look like and where the breakdown is of whose responsibilities are what. And I thought that was helpful and gave some direction on what each board's responsibilities were. So they are going to hopefully continue to look at that so we can, and they recommended that that is something that we do between both of our boards as our guide to who's doing what. And the RFP, my exciting piece that I was really excited to hear about is the RFP. We had approved that for a healthcare clinic. So putting that out there, there's been conversations with some healthcare providers about the potential for that. I don't know if it will work or not, and but the Joint Powers Board approved the RFP to explore the possibility of bringing in a healthcare clinic into the school. And a recommendation was made, it was 5-1, I believe, for the recommendation to the Virginia School Board to designate some building money going forward over to the industrial arts programming.
Over to the academy.
Academy.
But for
High school in
the,
general.
yeah, oh, high school in general, okay,
Yeah, for
thank you.
lockers and any.
Oh, yes,
interior
yes,
improvements.
thank you, and
And then
beefing
2.5
up.
million? Isn't that 2.5 million?
Yes.
And that was my recap.
You also had I didn't attend, but I watched the video about the school work coordinator. Because,
Yeah, so I just noticed that I missed those two pieces on the bottom of this. Yes, so we had some discussion on the contract for the services for school business coordinator question, because it was presented differently now with this requested contract than what we initially set out for that position. Initially, that position was being looked at as being employed through the school districts. The person that they are looking at hiring has been and is currently employed through the,
Workforce
Northeast.
Center.
Minnesota Office of Job Training.
thank you.
Yeah.
All I see is a bunch of letters floating around my brain. So she has been approved, or she's been employed through there for quite some time and would like to continue to be employed through there. So they're looking at contracting this position through them for 5 years, with her agency being her employer and remaining her employer to protect some benefits, and that we would be receiving the service, and it would be a full-time position to the school district.
So Kelly, you were just looking at that? I
No, that
understood
was
that you
approved.
you voted
That was
on it.
approved, yep.
And if I could just speak to that, we didn't approve a contract to hire
No.
a full-time person to work for us. We approved a contract to hire a consultant. And it didn't have anything at all, it said, explicitly said the hours and services provided to the joint district would be dictated by the consultant that we hired, not the person. And it didn't say anything, address any sort of exclusivity or anything like that. I voted against the contract because, number one, that was the first that we had heard. We had heard that we knew we had posted for a position to hire an employee. We didn't hire an employee. It referenced the guts of the contract are in the position description. We may have gotten that position description at a previous meeting. I didn't recall seeing it. We didn't get it electronically like we got the position description for the K-12 curriculum coordinator at the last meeting. And, I mean, in general, I think that how the Joint Powers Board is operating, frankly, I'm a little disappointed because I look at being on that Joint Powers Board is I represent 6 of my colleagues sitting around this table.
Thank you, thank you.
And there hasn't been any discussion on those items, and I've encouraged Dr. Schmidt, and I've encouraged Jeff, that we should be discussing these items internally so we know how you feel and we know how to have some direction as far as how we go and vote at the Joint Powers Board. It's not just the 3 of us.
Thank you.
Which was your basis for your recommendation earlier today of the agenda?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. And as far as the I don't feel it's appropriate when the Joint Powers Board voted on September 16th to recommend what size, or and particularly the amount that we commit extra money to the project, to the building project. I didn't think that was appropriate, nor did I think, although I do appreciate it, that Virginia's considering kicking in some money for additional funds out of their reserves for the academy. I think those are discussions that should first happen at the board that's making the recommendation, and they should refer that to the joint powers, not the other way around.
Totally
Those are
agree, Matt.
just
Totally
my
agree.
thoughts.
So consolidating the 2 districts' hours, board as I
Absolutely.
remember, so would there be a sense of urgency to,
Well, I think
Get the
we already
consolidation.
have it, and that's why I asked to have the consolidation as a standing item. I think there's definitely a sense of urgency. We've stated that we're gonna try and have the consolidation and plan to take effect. July 1, I don't know that that can happen. There's a lot of steps that need to happen to get that done. But we haven't heard a thing about consolidation, or I haven't heard, sometimes I'm not paying good attention. Haven't heard a thing about consolidation since we passed the resolution. That was signed today. A resolution that we passed 2 months ago. And they're different resolutions. What we passed and what Virginia passed. I still haven't been provided a signed copy of the joint powers agreement. I don't know if one exists.
one does exist, we
Of
know
our
that.
joint power, of the joint powers agreement?
Between our district and
Between our two
Virginia.
districts.
I haven't gotten a copy of it despite asking for one a week ago.
Who'd you request the copy to?
Jeff,
Okay.
this is pretty important stuff.
I would like to see them to make sure that they're exactly the same. That's what
Oh, the joint powers agreement is signed by both, so for sure that'll be the same. The consolidation resolution, we know, as was discussed, is not the same.
per the conversation that the teamworks presented, or is that what's making you?
No, I've been told that, they approved the resolution that the first version that was given to us that we tabled and we subsequently changed specifically regarding the makeup of the board at post-consolidation.
That's what's different.
Yes.
And that's what
very
we were
happy to
talking
hear
about
that
this
we're
morning.
talking about that in 2 weeks.
I mean, I was concerned when sitting at that joint powers meeting and the guy from Teamworks was talking about consolidation would mean that it would be an abolishment of the current boards and everything would go at large.
The
now.
abolishment of the joint powers board,
No.
right, he didn't know that.
Right.
He didn't,
Yeah.
because he specifically referenced the plan that Gary Lee presented in June, which wasn't what we passed.
Right. So,
So I get, I don't disagree, Director Schulberg, with the frustration with some of this stuff. And I think that's where I've been frustrated with just not knowing what is each entity's role. Because my understanding when you do, and I would be really interested on having the finalized joint powers board agreement, because my understanding when we were initially looking at that, that we would be making some decisions and recommendations going forward, that was the role. But also, there was some financial fiduciary stuff tied to that too, so that's confused me more when all of a sudden there's the 31 million or whatever the amount exactly was for Eveleth Gilbert, and then the other amount for Virginia. I was confused about that because that was my understanding when you looked at the joint powers board, when I looked at it, of my understanding of it in our conversation. So if we could get that soon, that would be great.
And excuse me, and I agree with that. The only thing that I'm saying is, it's the job of the three of us to represent our board as a whole.
And
We aren't representing our constituents like we are tonight.
And that was represented that way when we had the discussion of going to it that way too. It was said that the Joint Powers Board would bring forward the wishes, the sentiment of the full board.
Yeah.
It's actually taken a leapfrog jump. It's just like the RFP for the healthcare clinic, the business coordinator. It's just, wow, it happened, no discussion. I don't think the Virginia school board discussed it separately either before it jumped into the joint powers agenda.
We did discuss the position, but the position changed completely. We went from hiring a person to hiring a consultant.
you
And
know,
I have a lot of questions about all that too, so.
you know, and me sitting as an alternate at that, because I'm trying to stay on top of what's going on in case one of the committee members is not there. And I sat there and I listened for 1 hour to talk about buildings, and talk about Alexandria, and talk about Sartell, and talk about St. Cloud. And not in any of that conversation did we talk about land acquisition yet. We're talking about, how can you build something when you ain't even got a piece of property? Yet, this should be serious information on obtaining real property for buildings. I get all the excitement about the academies, but I think everybody's heard enough about Alexandria. Okay, I get that. But St. Cloud Tech and Sartell, yeah, I get all that. But I think we should be talking about land acquisition and where we're gonna go. Here we passed something in November and we're not even, and people are, and I've told Matt and I've told Superintendent Carey, I get ripped pretty hard that they passed something in November knowing that there was gonna be built on these 2 parcels of land, but yet there's there's no purchase agreement signed.
I heard 2 weeks ago, the academy's gonna be built in brick. As ludicrous as that is, we gotta get some property to stop these rumors.
Yes. And I believe that's where the superintendent should be talking to the city of Eveleth. Talking to the city, not talking, we need some legal documents.
And what's
Yeah.
wrong with some open meetings too, between the city and the school districts, the school boards and the cities and Virginia and Eveleth, and discuss some of this stuff right in the open, for all of us to hear. There's no secrets about all of this, but let's have some open meetings about those discussions. And I have some other situations too. You have one legal counsel there the other night, and as far as I know, there was no decision made by the Joint Powers Board nor by each one of our boards as to put it out for quotes or bids or proposals for a joint powers attorney. So now we've got kind of, I think, conflict of interest. We've got one attorney representing one board, and now the Joint Powers Board, and that same attorney was the same attorney for one of these agreements. What was it, the consolidation agreement or the Joint Powers Agreement? This is getting pretty muddy, but you should have gone out, I think you should have a separate Joint Powers attorney. Plus, again, competition. There should have been an opportunity for any attorney who might be interested in that thing, okay? About the school business coordinator. I'll leave that one for now. But, okay, the board passed this RFP for a health care clinic, a school-based clinic. Okay, they come to the administrations, come to the Joint Powers Board for an RFP, and here it passed. Who decided that we should even have a school-based clinic in our school? That's a big controversial thing. First of all, you know, there's privacy issues. Wait a minute. We as boards separately should give direction. Do we even want a school-based clinic in our new school academy? It's a big issue, hot topic, and it's a very important one. So now all of a sudden that's flown by. Somebody at some point in time, I think probably Noel Schmidt, because he's said in other board meetings that he's been talking, to different entities about this idea. But that's not something that both districts have decided we didn't want. Teamworks. Teamworks all of a sudden shows up, and Teamworks is doing this. Who hired Teamworks? Did the boards vote to hire Teamworks?
I don't think Teamworks is under contract. I've taken that they're showing up doing the work
Okay,
gratis. Is that true?
Not
Cross
gratis.
Anderson, correct, hired.
They are doing it for free?
Cross Anderson hired them.
Okay, so now Cross Anderson is doing the hiring of some other consultants. To me, it's all over the place. Who's making the decisions to do what? To hire people, to make job descriptions, to even have what, the new administrative structure of 31 or 32 administrators and the roles? I don't know. I think
I agree, Polly, that should have come to this board
a lot of things. many
first
things.
and then go to the joint powers.
So what do we need to work for? Just the Cross Anderson handle all of them?
So, well, okay, that's ridiculous. I'm sorry, but that's ridiculous to say they're handling the whole thing, to say that they employed the one that we were actually happy, and I did not hear anyone say, oh, I'm not in agreement with having some clear direction. And that was at a collaborative meeting with all of us sitting there. As far as the Joint Powers Board, I agree that it is not clear, and I like that we're gonna be meeting beforehand or having the standing agenda items to be able to talk about that. But an RFP is not a commitment either, and an RFP is exploring if there's potential interest there, because it was sounding like there was potential interest there. But then if they're coming forward, one second, I did not interrupt you. So the RFP is just gathering information to see if there's anyone who would possibly want to even look at this consideration. It is not a commitment to do anything. Do I think that there's some pieces that are getting rolled over and not discussed? Yes. I made a note to email Stacy Sundquist to talk with her about this specifically as the vice chair for the Joint Powers Board, to say some pieces need to be slowed down and discussed further, or there's going to be continuing to have some issues with it being shoved through. I will certainly be addressing that, and certainly be addressing some of the conversation that we're sitting here having here today. But I want it to be productive, and I feel like it's being a bash session of all the pieces missed. I'm not disagreeing that there have been some pieces missed, and I think to have some good things that we can actually do to improve it would be very helpful as someone that was sitting in for the Joint Powers Board, because we did ask for nominations, and you did not put your name in on the hat. And
you understand why? Because all of this could be eliminated if we did have the 13-member board. We had seven.
But then we have our
7
collaborative board, and then all of a sudden people forget about what we talked about in the 13-member board when we're sitting as a collaboration talking. I mean,
No, if you follow what Matt said.
I would like some clear
it's just a different way of doing it. He's saying before the powers board should be bringing forth the collective wishes of the full board.
Correct.
That's exactly what my.
Much less, we should be surprised with things at the table at the joint powers board. It's like, here it is, we want you to vote on it.
And I don't disagree with that stuff, I'm just saying, please give ideas or suggestions, as Matt had done, on saying, can we have these standing items? To say, Kelly, please make sure that there is more conversation and discussion happening. I mean, I clearly heard that without it being stated that way. Because, or else I feel like it's just automatically being put up negative things, and I don't want my work to be negative, and I don't want the board that I'm sitting on representing you guys to be negative or for things to be missed. But I also am not gonna respond as well when I feel that it's just easily throwing someone under the bus of, because I'm trying to do good work.
I'm not trying to throw anyone
Well, I'm
under the
just
bus. I'm
saying-
just saying
I
that how
told you
this is
on
working,
how-
in my opinion, is broken and we need to fix it.
Right.
And if that's being negative, I'm sorry.
I'm
I
not
agree with
saying
that.
that that's being negative, but I'm saying.
Well, who's being
the
negative
tone-
here?
Okay, Matt, your tone is, you get very animated, which I get animated too sometimes. But I'm not saying that it's not broken, I'm not saying any of that stuff, but I feel like we've just clearly missed my daughter's volleyball. I mean, we just got done spending 20 minutes bashing about the joint powers board.
Oh, I don't know if it was bashing, it was
And
just,
actually,
it was
just trying to
intended to
it was
be
trying
bad.
to-
things out.
trying to straighten things out in
The
regards
only
to.
suggestion I have is that we obviously need to talk more and have discussion, and that wasn't clearly stated, and that at the very beginning of the meeting, Matt saying, let's have these standing items before the joint powers board, so we clearly have direction from the board moving forward into our joint powers board meeting. Those were the only direct things that I received from the conversation.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have follow-up. Is there anything else anyone would like me to do with sitting at this board?
I would like you to go back to when you guys have that joint powers board, is I want you to really focus on land acquisition. Okay, land acquisition is that's probably the most important thing for me. Right now, we're just, flying around on this magic carpet, right? But the statement was that the rubber hits the road on the 15th of May. There's no rubber hit the road. We haven't talked about consolidation, we haven't had any serious discussions with the city of Eveleth or the city of Virginia about acquiring land, although we did buy a building we can't occupy. This
We
is where
didn't.
we didn't.
Yeah.
But we definitely, the carriage is way before the horse right now.
And I don't disagree, I just,
One of the things that you guys are gonna have to work out on the 28th, I think, is when we meet this for the boards, is your counterparts to the north will not believe in anything that you're talking about tonight. They just don't.
What do you
And
mean?
I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I get what you guys are saying, but they have no desire to talk about the things that you wanna talk about. They just send it
So
to-
land acquisition, something they don't want to talk about?
No, I think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I guess I wanted a little
I'm
more
just, it was
clarification on the
a general
statement.
statement, they don't have these conversations.
And what does
But
that mean?
that's the difference between
Alright, sorry.
leading and being led.
no, okay.
I agree, we need to work that out. Let's talk about it on the 28th, 13 of us around the table.
Exactly, because I do not disagree with what Mr. Carey is saying, and, I think if you look at any of our pieces the referendum, the joint powers, all of those things, we had discussion and conversation of where the others may not have. And so with that being said, what matters to that is when there's three of us engaging, saying we need to have this conversation, and then there's the other three saying we don't need to have this conversation. We have two different views of it that we have to talk about then and get on the same page on the 28th. I think anyone looking at our boards clearly sees the difference of how we operate. And I think it's just coming together and saying this is a piece that we have to figure out.
Yes.
Because I agree.
Leaving that aside for a moment though, just to make the point again, there was no discussion about legal counsel for before you guys voted, I don't even know if you didn't even
No.
vote for that,
Yeah.
at the joint
No,
powers.
it
And
was,
so,
we heard.
from both boards, or for the healthcare. No prior discussion, no possible input by any of us on both boards. The school business coordinator, like Matt said, it changed totally. There's so many other aspects that I didn't hear in that conversation that you know, should be brought up, I think, weren't even considered, you know? And I don't want to go into it now, but
Well, and I'll go
That should
back to it,
happen
I mean,
fine.
you guys are gonna have to iron out your, methods of operation, because they're very different between the two districts right now.
And I've asked for the financial accountability of this and that too, and I talked to Spencer and Brian today at length about this, Fund 6. Fund 6 is the construction fund, and Fund 6 is the referendum vote money. And so, it's really a weird, strange situation to account for that money that's being spent. Okay, I finally got something out of there, but there have to be more expenditures that haven't even appeared yet. There's no legal fees on there, there's no consultant fees, there's a lot of things on there. The food that's been, money spent for food and whatever, for all these meetings and pizzas, I mean, where's that money? It was explained to me that our money is still separate. They're charging some to Virginia, they're charging some to Eveleth Gilbert, and then it's coming together in that one sheet. But I said, who's deciding, who's approving? No board, not our board, not their board, not the Joint Powers Board is approving any of these expenditures, and then they're expended. And like I say, when we have to approve our check writing, our bills have to be paid within 30 days. A Joint Powers Board has to be paid within 45 days by statute. You have to approve them. We had that money since July, and no board has approved any of those expenditures, even that list that we got last week, Thursday or Friday.
Going to that list, okay. It was $2,087,172.89 for that building. Okay? And we are committed basically up to $3 million also, right? All right? Kelly Warren and Associates, $36,458.95. Travel, $15,956.32. That's July, August, and September, 3 months. Now, when we go someplace, we go to a meeting down there and you have a travel voucher, right? You account for everything. Who's accounting for all this?
And who approved it? I know it happened, and they said, oh, we're going to go. But shouldn't that, even if it's a perfunctory, shouldn't somebody have approved this travel? Shouldn't somebody have, the boards, Joint Powers or both boards have said, yes, we approve this, not just to say, tell the boards, we're gonna do this, here's where we're gonna go. Well, where's our budget? What about our advertising budget? How much have we spent on advertising? How much is referendum money? How much is pre-referendum vote money? Did we go over our $114,000 limit? I mean, this money thing really is bothering me. Nobody knows where it's going.
I understand where you're coming from, you know, we're spending money, taking trips, and, I get it, that we need to gather as much information as we can, but to build this state-of-the-art facility, and I get it. But here we're traveling to see all this stuff, but yet we don't have land.
What pot is that coming out of? Yeah,
You know,
we don't have that.
Well, part of it, part of the land, I get, yes, land is important, and yes, people continue to say the school's gonna be up in brick. But part of it is the design piece, that we need to know the elements of the design in order to figure out the land space that is needed. Because that
okay.
impacts
Okay,
that,
so-
and that was my clear understanding for the Eveleth too, is all of that stuff.
so we're taking
Impacts.
teachers and students and board members. You got board members going that could possibly be not on the board in a year or so. I get it. We got students that are gonna be graduating in a year or two. You know, really, is that having those students come back and tell us what they saw? Yeah, I get that. It's all nice and warm and fuzzy feeling. Yeah, I get it. But there should be a task force, such as the superintendents and the principals, and a small committee that is actually gonna be around in 5 years, around in 10 years, that can hang on to that design and be that input. Like I said, you know, students can come back here and tell us what they saw, and the teachers can come back here and tell us what they saw. I get that. Okay, I get it, it's great, you know, but, I don't know, I think the amount of travel, the amount of money we're spending on travel is taking money potentially out of the classroom. Then I think the superintendents really need to trim down just basically who they're taking with. I mean, I understand teachers are going with. Okay, I get some of the key teachers to go with.
And it doesn't, and I wasn't gonna say this, but when you talk about taking money out of the classroom, it does pain me that now collectively we've approved $5.5 million to go into bricks and mortar. That if that would have been contemplated when the planning process was being done, 4.4 million of that money would have been paid for by the agency and the state. And that money would be available to go into our classrooms when this was all said and done.
I made that point too. I made that point that all of it could go into the classrooms, and we work within our, whatever we passed, our $178 million, we work within that budget. We're just wasting money, like you said, that could go into curriculum once it all happens. Work within the budget. Now this is an improvement. This isn't because we're short now. It was said at the meeting, well, the 2.5 that Virginia is going to probably dedicate, well, that's just to make things a little bit better, you know. And ours was, well, we made it a little too small, so let's kick in about another 3 million, you know. But that didn't mean that you're gonna make Virginia any smaller. That's not going to.
Which I think is completely ridiculous. But
Anyway,
so 14.0, I think we've had enough discussion on this. Are you, Director Said, are you done on the Joint Powers Committee discussion?
I was done a while ago.
Okay, 15.0 board member topics, we'll move along. Director Schultz,
I have nothing.
Director Sader,
I've already said everything.
I have nothing.
my board member topics really relate to unfinished business, and we have meetings and we have agenda items, and then we have things that we don't take action on or don't decide on, or we say is going to happen and they never happen and we never come back to them. I'm just going to throw some.
Can I get a list of those?
Well, I
meeting?
want to say them, you know what, Bill, I tried since September 23rd to get to you. And I know you said you tried getting a hold of me a few times, but this is a direct relation. I would have had them for you for this meeting, but please,
Okay, all right, go ahead.
please get back to me next time. Okay. We talked about not having a PM detention for Melsheen Junior High. Do we have that yet? And that was months ago.
Did we just approve that, didn't we?
No, detention. I mean, that came up on 9/9/19.
No, no one is hired.
Okay, so we don't have that yet. Do we have a second speech coach when Mr. Chad said he would assist? Did we hire him for an assistant speech coach, or is that still in the works?
Speech season hasn't started,
Well, I know, but that was the thing that,
but we're waiting for the numbers to make sure that we have enough numbers.
now that we're combined with Virginia, the conversation was that we were gonna need a second one. He was on the list. Okay, that's
It's,
left undone. We had a situation about bullying. I think that's still unfinished. And now you board members are aware that we had another communication about another concern about bullying. And the first one I feel is still unfinished.
How is it unfinished?
Okay, it was said that the
Actually,
person.
that's inappropriate. We're
Well,
not
okay,
talking about that.
we did at the other meeting. The mother was said to have gotten the investigative
This is
report.
inappropriate.
Okay, fine, we need to talk about it sometime though. And now we have another case of real severe concern of bullying. We need to take care of those things. Is Ellen Williams working in our district yet? Because as of today, she still does not have her license.
It's been submitted to the state.
It's been submitted, but at the last meeting, you said that program does not, early childhood does not start until the end of September. The end of September has come and gone, so she's working for us, and she still doesn't have the license. That's a big concern to me. I know there's a kind of a period. Today it says that the payment has been made, but that is no guarantee that it's going to be approved. Okay, so this previous board had a problem when you hired a industrial technology teacher without a license. And then later on, you had to let that person go because they were unlicensed. That's a big problem. And, you know, I keep saying like a broken record that when we hire somebody, we need more information than one piece of paper. We need, first of all, at least, are they licensed for the job we're hiring them for? Are they certified? You had a coach that the previous board hired that didn't even have a coaching certificate. So when I say we need more information and we're not, well, we just take a recommendation of some hiring committee, you need to know that. You need to know, see all kinds of information. There's a whole list of public information that the public can get, and board members don't even get it, and we hire people blind. All right, so Ellen Williams. Katie Peterson, we hired her as a health services assistant.
Yep.
Okay, now I asked a couple of times about the third-party billing, and now I understand that somebody, I don't know if this person is working for free or getting paid as a licensed school nurse, and in what capacity, and what is she doing? And it never came to this board to pay anybody, either temporarily or
Oh, no less
part-time.
than 3 times what she's doing.
You said that she was a sub. Who is she
That's
subbing for? When you substitute, you're subbing for somebody else. There is no licensed school nurse. So that is, to me, that's a big concern. We're paying somebody who decided to pay somebody that did not come across through this board to approve. You talked about having a policy committee, and 2 meetings ago. Staff development, academic advisory committee, and policy committee, none of that's happened. I first got on the board and we talked about the possibility of forming a labor management committee. That's gone nowhere. I don't know. I would like to see a monthly enrollment chart. You gave us 876 today, but I think one meeting or 2 you gave us. Every month, give us each grade, where they're going up and down. I know Virginia gets one, it's not just Virginia, we used to get them too, but don't just throw numbers out. It'd be nice for us to see where we're losing kids and where we're gaining kids. I know you said we had a bunch of kindergarten kids, come in, but that's appropriate board information. I'm done.
Thank you.
I have one item. Okay, this is the rules of the construction manager. This is a memorandum here on May 2nd of 2019. The construction manager replaces a general contractor. And all trade work is completely bid out, which I understand, okay. But my understanding is a construction manager has no responsibility insofar as if you put these windows in, this new academy, and a year later they fall out, and the subcontractor put it in, neither one are liable. My understanding, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but you know who the general manager is on this? The school board. They bite the bullet on this thing. Like up in Cook with the floor sinking and everything, what happens with all this $180 construction? If we have flaws a year or 2 later, who's liable? Who's gonna pick up the tab?
Oh, I'm sure, Tom, there'll be some sort of,
Who's
I
designated?
don't know, I'd like to have a copy of the Cross Anderson's, the construction manager. I just see that contract. You get that for me, Jeff? Another thing, looking at that land acquisition, one of what Bill said, okay, there's roughly over $2 million there. If we go up $3 million on a bus, I'm looking at that as a $5 million cost overrun. It was not put into the budget. We're picking that money up. There again, that's a flaw that should have been considered
I
from
think
day
that-
one.
I think the $2.1 million for the land, for that building, Tom, would have been, a lot of that money would have been saved by not having to fill in wetlands. That was a $1 million savings. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah, this is.
But
it's
there is
cost
a-
overrun.
there is a
I don't know
savings.
about that. We haven't fallen a nail in that building yet, we haven't turned over a shovel full of dirt. We're looking at over $5 million plus overrun, right? But my big thing is, I'd like to know who accepts the responsibility
For any deficiencies in construction?
deficiencies that the general contractor does. They assume that, but a construction manager doesn't. That's my interpretation. That's my thing, I'm done.
Okay,
I'm running out of voice anyway.
thank you, Tom.
Bally wore me out.
Okay, we will take a short recess and return in 5 minutes for closed session negotiation strategies with Nebraska.